All right, let's talk about one of history's absolute titans, a man named Seong-gye, who you probably know better as King Taejo. I mean, this guy did something that's almost impossible to imagine. He founded a dynasty, the Joseon dynasty, that would go on to rule for more than 500 years.
But just to really get a handle on what he accomplished, you have to ask yourself a question. How in the world do you even begin to tear down a kingdom that's been around for almost half a millennium?
And then, once you've done that, how do you manage to build something new from those ruins? Something so strong that it lasts for another 5 centuries?
Well, believe it or not, this is the story of the man who actually did it.
So to understand the man, we have to start where his legend began, on the wild, chaotic borders of a kingdom that was on its last legs.
So picture this, it's the late 14th century, and the Goryeo kingdom is, to put it mildly, falling apart at the seams. It's rotting from the inside out with corruption, and from the outside, it's getting hammered by Japanese pirates and rebel armies. The whole thing was about to just collapse.
And into this total mess steps Seong-gye. And his reputation is built in a flash. Just look at this timeline. In 1362 alone, he takes out a warlord with a single soul-crushing arrow shot, and then turns around and leads the army to take back the capital. Fast forward to 1380, and he basically becomes the kingdom's protector by taking down the terrifying pirate commander Agi Baldu with a couple of perfectly aimed arrows.
He got so good, so legendary, that people literally started saying this across the kingdom. When Seong-gye draws his bow, heaven itself moves out of the way. I mean, that tells you everything, right? He wasn't just a general anymore. He was a force of nature.
So you have this larger-than-life figure, this legend, and that reputation is what leads him to the single most important, most pivotal decision of his entire life, a moment at a riverbank that was the absolute point of no return. See, in 1388, the royal court makes this crazy decision to order an invasion of Ming China, a rising superpower. Seong-gye was completely against it, and he laid out what he called the 4 impossibilities. His argument was just pure, brutal logic. You can't attack a bigger country, especially not in the summer when disease is everywhere. You'd be leaving your own shores wide open to pirates, and the rain would destroy your supply lines. It was a suicide mission.
And this created an epic showdown. On one side, you had General Cho-young, a total old-school loyalist who believed you followed the king's orders no matter what. And on the other, you had Seong-gye, the ultimate pragmatist, who knew his real duty was to protect his soldiers and his country from a terrible decision. It was a classic clash between blind loyalty and cold, hard reality.
So he's facing this impossible choice: lead his men to their deaths or commit treason. He chose his men. He turned his army around, and with that one incredible act, the old kingdom was doomed and a new one was about to be born.
But look, you can't build a nation with just an army, right? Seong-gye had the power. He was the sword that could seize control. But he needed a plan, a blueprint, a vision. And he found it in a genius scholar named Jong Do-jeon. He was the map. It was this incredible partnership of military might and intellectual firepower.
And they didn't mess around. Their plan to build a new nation was almost surgical. Step 1, seize power, which he did by marching his army right back to the capital. Step 2, design the new government, with Jong Do-jeon basically being the chief architect. Step 3, give it a name, Joseon, to link it back to Korea's ancient history. And finally, Step 4, build a brand new capital, Hanyang, which we know today as Seoul.
So he did it. He built a new dynasty from scratch. But the biggest threat to this brand new kingdom wasn't going to come from some foreign enemy. No, it was going to come from inside his own palace, from his own family. And this is where the story gets really, really dark. Because the second the kingdom was built, a single fatal question popped up that would tear everything apart. Who gets to be the next king? Okay, this table really breaks down the family drama at the center of it all. From his first wife, he had these tough, ambitious, battle-hardened sons. Guys like Yi Bong-won, who had literally fought and bled to help create this kingdom. But Taejo was deeply in love with his second wife, Queen Sinduk, and in a decision that was all heart and no head, he named her very young son Yi Bong-sek as the crown prince. He completely skipped over his older sons, who felt they'd earned it. And that decision planted a seed of pure resentment that exploded in a bloody coup in August of 1398.
Yi Bong-won, feeling betrayed and pushed aside, decided to take what he thought was his. He launched a surprise attack, and in one horrific night, Known as the first strife of princes, he had the kingdom's brilliant architect, Jong-do-jeon, hunted down and killed. Then he had his two youngest half-brothers murdered, including the little boy who was supposed to be king. King Taejo, the great warrior, the founder of a dynasty, was left completely and utterly broken. The final chapter of his life is this tragic, shocking contrast between the wild success of his kingdom and his own personal, bottomless grief.
And here's the crazy irony of it all. The dynasty he created lasted for 518 years. I mean, just let that sink in. That is one of the longest-running dynasties in world history. His political achievement was a staggering, unqualified success. But the man himself? The personal price was just unbearable. He had lost his beloved wife, his two youngest sons, and his best friend and closest advisor, all of it at the hands of another son. He just gave up. He abdicated the throne, fled the capital he had built, and went home, just drowning in grief and rage.
And that leaves us with this final haunting question. His kingdom became this incredible, enduring monument, but his own life ended in ruins. So what's the real legacy? What truly remains when the builder is gone? The masterpiece he created for the world, or the wreckage of the life it cost him?